Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Brian Schwager here, founder of Wellness Movement Services, bringing you yet another video series to empower you to take control of your wellness and movement. In this series, we've been focusing on immunity. And in part 3, we're going to move well into the lymphatic system. We've covered the importance of why we need a strong immune system. We've covered the fact that now more than ever, with COVID and the situation that we're under, not only is it stressful emotionally, and I will emphasize on that, it is very stressful emotionally on our population, but let alone that colds and flus and viruses and illness are brought about because of a weakened immune state. And what you're going to learn in the upcoming parts here, probably going to go as far as part 4, is that the emotional stress has a detrimental effect on your immune response. Now, what have we covered so far? We covered what is the immune system. We covered how important it is for our immune cells to remain strong, responsive, so that they can identify attack and get rid of these foreign invaders. You begin to understand how powerful your immune system is, and that it has an innate intelligence, that it's a circulating immune system. That it's a circulating nervous system, and that it will know what to do as long as the body is providing it with the right information. Now, in other words, the right information, providing it with the adequate amount of water, nourishment, oxygen, and no dysregulation with emotional stress, which dysregulates the immune system. And most importantly, we moved on into the cellular environment. We looked at some of the powerful aspects of some of these immune cells, the B cells, the NK cells, the T cells, and the cytokines, etc. And then we talked about what's more important, right? The cell itself or the environment in which it floats. Remember, we talked about the terrain theory versus the germ theory, where we thought at one time that attacking the germ was the answer to preventing illness and eradicating disease. And I shared with you the research that I did to confirm that the Louis Pasteur's idea on the germ theory was wrong, and that he plagiarized actually 2 of his contemporaries, Dr. Claude Bernard and Dr. Antoine Deschamps, on cellular environment, or the milieu interior. The milieu interior is the environment where all the cells float. So we have immune cells and other red blood cells, etc., in the bloodstream, which we have to keep clean, right? But what you're going to learn today is that we have another system, drainage system, called the lymphatic system, which is a sewage system of the body. That too also has to remain clean. Now, it is a cleaning system. In that it's a sewage system, we cannot let that back up. So let's move on into the lymphatic system. And I'm going to be relating everything to my 4 principles, because that is the pillar to everything I do. And I believe it's the pillar to enhancing our health. When we look at enhancing our emotional health, our biochemical health, our nutritional health, and our physical health, everything gets better. Our muscles and bones and joints, for those that have challenges with the musculoskeletal system. It'll enhance the immune system. But how do we enhance these? By changing our lifestyle. Without further ado, we're going to move forward and pick up where we left off. And now we're going to get into understanding what the lymphatic system is. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the lymphatic system, a one-way sewage and waste removal system. Now, in your home, you have a waste removal system. And if that gets clogged up, what happens? Now, this is interesting. Alternative and conventional physicians alike already acknowledge that one of the most important keys to health is an optionally functioning immune system. The lymphatic system is often overlooked as an essential component of immune function. There is twice as much lymph in your body than there is blood. And what we have here, when we look at this diagram here, is we have the lymphatic system shown here through our adenoids, our tonsils, the thymus. We have our lymph nodes, which are little filters. We have our lymphatic vessels, the thoracic duct, the spleen, which is a detoxification organ, the appendix. Of course, we know that the liver is a detoxification organ. And bone marrow also carries the important immune cells that help with our defense. So let me read this to you. The lymphatic system is the extracellular fluid. Now we remember the extracellular fluid. So let me go back here again to our PowerPoint. We go back to this image here, and you see this is the extracellular environment. This is where these foreign invaders exist. They exist in the extracellular environment. The fluid that bathes each cell, also called interstitial fluid. Healthy fluid is clear and flows through the lymphatic vessels freely. There is a highway of vessels and lymph nodes that run throughout the body carrying lymph fluid. Keeping this system clean maintains an easy passage for the transportation of lymph fluid and eliminating toxins. The lymph system affects every cell and organ in the body. Remember, your lymphatic system is where many of your immune cells function. Lymph nodes are just one of the many types of lymphoid organs in the body. Others are the spleen, thymus gland, and tonsils. So let me repeat. The lymphatic system is where many of your immune cells function. Lymph nodes are just one of the many types of lymphoid organs in the body. Others would be the spleen, thymus gland, tonsils, adenoids, Peyer's patch of the intestines, as well as bits of lymphoid tissue scattered in the epithelial and connective tissues. The spleen is a soft, blood-rich organ that filters blood. The thymus gland programming of certain lymphocytes so that they can carry out their protective roles. I talked about the thymus gland and how it acts like a little university for T cells so that they can go through the university, get educated, graduate, and go out and serve the body. The tonsils and adenoids are part of the immune system and help protect the body from disease. They also, as food runs past the tonsils and adenoids, they sample bacteria and viruses and gather information to then forward that information down to the stomach, where 75% of your immune system functions. It's sending that information forward to let them know that something's coming their way. The lymph fluid delivers food, oxygen, and hormones to the cells. And remember, there is twice as much lymph in your body than there is blood at any given moment. Why would there be twice as much lymph in the body? Well, my theory is this. The designer, the architect, God, source energy, whatever you want to call this beautiful spirit, he said to himself, I'm going to create man in my own image. But when he gets to earth, he's going to have to make choices. He's got free will, but he's going to have to make choices. And some of those choices are not going to be that healthy. Food, alcohol, and things that are just disturbing to the organism. Well, why do you think he put 4 times more lymph in your body? He gave you twice the sewage support because he knew, hypothetically, he knew that you were going to pollute the body. Or you look at this human organism, it is a one big cybernetic factory. It is producing energy and it produces waste. So cellular energy, when your cells make energy, there is a waste byproduct that is then exited out of the cell. So we go back here, you see where it says cellular waste here, that gets excreted from the intracellular environment into the extracellular environment. And then from the extracellular environment, it gets transported into the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system represents an accessory route by which fluids can flow from the interstitial spaces, the spaces around the cells, back into the blood. And most important of all, the lymphatics can carry blood proteins and large particulate matter, dead cells and other toxic materials, away from the tissue spaces, neither of which can be removed by absorption directly into the capillaries. Most important of all, the lymphatics carry blood proteins and large particulate matter. They leave behind debris, neither of which can be removed by absorption directly into the blood capillaries. What Dr. Samuel West is saying here, now I've had a lot of conversations with Dr. West. This is taken from his book, The Golden 7+1, is we need to get these particulates away from it. And the lymphatic system is the only exit, the only system that can exit this material into the bloodstream. And then once it's in the bloodstream, it gets distributed out of the body, or sometimes materials can be recycled, interestingly enough. Now, lymph nodes is where they will process antigens, viral antigens with macrophages, antibody protection. Lymph nodes help protect the body by removing foreign materials such as bacteria and tumor cells from the lymphatic stream, and by producing lymphocytes that function in the immune response. Lymphocytes are produced by the lymph nodes. Know this, when you have swollen lymph nodes, right? We have these lymph nodes all throughout the body, and there's a lot of them, like I said, in the intestinal tract, down into the groin, obviously up even into the brain. There are these filters, and these filters will get clogged and they'll get swelled up. Lymph nodes will produce their own lymphocytes and help the body to rid it of these foreign invaders. So when these things swell up, that's a good sign, but it's also telling you that you need to rest and you need to get your sewage system unclogged. Now, why is it clogged? There could be many reasons why it's clogged, but I'll tell you this. When you have cold and flu symptoms, what kind of symptoms do you get? You get a runny nose, you get a headache, you get feverish, you get tired, or what they also call blaze. You could have nausea. You also have diarrhea and vomiting. You could sweat by your temperature coming up, you're sweating. Now, what this is actually a purging. These are purging symptoms, purification symptoms. And years ago in the 90s, when I was at this Tony Robbins health seminar, I talked about this, I think, in part 1. He was showing us, let me come out of screen sharing here. He was showing us how we pollute the body at a certain time of year, which increases our susceptibility to an over an abundance of viral bacteria, etc. Which what does that mean? It brings about symptoms, cold and flu symptoms. And the period of time in the year has always been the same, about October to about March. The winter season, the fall into the winter season, which is when these things really proliferate. All right. But why is it that during this time of year that I would never get sick? This is after I really started to apply these principles in my own life. And I had food allergies, I had sinus problems, and, I had a compromised immune system. And that's why I have to be extra careful in my lifestyle. But I wasn't getting sick throughout the winter anymore. I could be around sick people and not even get sick. It is because one of the reasons, one of the main reasons, is that the person that is sick has a weak immune system. Remember, the immune system is the #1 defense against all illness and disease. And your immune system resides within your lymphatic system and within your blood. And if it's weak, we have no protection. And how does it get weak? Well, these lifestyle factors. People living under chronic stress, people not having good sleep hygiene and a good sleep-wake cycle. So they have biochemical imbalances, hormonal imbalances. And the two most important systems in the body are the nervous system and hormonal system, which has everything to do with the immunolymphatic system. We have nutritional deficiencies. We have an overabundance of toxic food, alcohol, and other products that weaken the immune system. And then we have a lack of movement, or we have too much movement or stimulation, which overactivates the immune system. So if somebody's compromised and they do too much, they're going to get sicker. So what do we have here in October? We have Halloween, and we have an over an abundance of sugar, which in and of itself will break down the immune system like that. I'll get to that when I get under nutritional health. We have the excitement of the holidays that are coming up just after Halloween and the overconsumption of candy and all these treats. We move into the holiday season, and is it always stressful around the holiday seasons, getting together with relatives and shopping, and especially under the pressure we're under now with the economic situation, the stress level is extremely high, which lowers your immune system. People are drinking and eating in excess. In fact, in the pandemic, since the pandemic started, there's been an the sale of alcohol and cigarettes and the use of drugs and the aspect of depression have all gone up. So we have the holidays, which bring about more emotional stress, more toxicity. You barely make it through New Year's. And some people even start getting sick in November and December. So then they start popping different medications to suppress it so that they can push on rather than taking it slow and cleaning out their body and purifying it. They push on. So a lot of people will get sick. Now, this happens every year. We have millions of people that get colds and flus every year. We've had it for forever. And you can look it up. And we could see that in the past, we had millions of people get sick. We've had thousands of people die with complications to the cold or flu, because if your lifestyle factors, or what I do in my services, I rate and rank each principle. When you have a load and the principles are out of balance, you are moving into a disease state. You see how this is relevant? We have an increase in the load, or what we'll call later on, we'll call it the stress load on the body. We're going to cover this under emotional health. So by time we get to January, everybody's pushed their lifestyle up into the red, and we start seeing a massive, increase in colds or flus. So we have missed days at work, we have missed days at school. So what am I getting at here? What we're getting at here is this period of time that I was learning about at this health seminar, this Tony Robbins health seminar. If we would correct these imbalances here, we would start seeing a decline during this time of year. So as I was doing more life enhancement work towards I'll say the second part of my professional career, so towards the latter part of the 90s, those clients that used to get sick a lot during this season, October to March, if you will, their symptoms, they didn't have as many symptoms. They weren't getting sick during that time of year. I could see how this was working. Even though I was reading about it, I was talking to naturopaths. Remember, I was well connected with a great network of holistic practitioners while living in Milwaukee. And of course, when I set up my services in Asheville, I could see them go down. And even if somebody did get sick, the period of time they were sick was shorter. So another thing I want to bring up about purifying the body, and that these are purging symptoms, ladies and gentlemen. The symptoms and colds and flus. I'm not going to go as far as talking about cancer. That's a whole nother topic when it comes to immune dysfunction. That's also a message that your lymphatic and your immune system are out of balance. But with colds or flus, and for purification, or the symptoms thereof. So let's say I go off my eating plan. I drink a little alcohol, have a little too much sugar. Within 8 to 16 hours, I will have symptoms. Guaranteed. I used to tell my clients in Milwaukee, I says, I can go out and create sickness in one night. One night or one day, going off my eating plan, I will have these symptoms. They will come back. And to this day, that's what will happen. However, what I also found when I did this experiment on me, because I was healthier, but I did put the wrong foods in my body, tried a little pizza for the first time in maybe 9 months or something, cheese, or I'd also recover quicker because my system was also stronger, because I had been purifying it. I had been enhancing my immune system, and I had been enhancing my 4 principles, right? I would recover quicker. I would have a little sinus infection, and within one day, maybe 2, using just natural remedies, it was gone. Night and day, I could have sinus drainage at middle of one day, and by the middle of the next day, it was completely gone, using no drugs. So my point here is this: the lymphatic system needs to be in flow to remove the waste. So how does that work? Well, let's look. Lymphatic pump. There are very small muscles located around the lymph capillaries, right in here, that are very sensitive to pressure of the lymph-filled vessels. This is a lymph-filled vessel. This is a lymph-filled vessel below it, and this is a lymph-filled vessel above it. So they stack one on top of the other, which contracts and forces fluid into the next chamber. So you see how the arrow is going up? It's forcing this fluid into the next chamber. This can be caused by movements such as bending the arms and legs and deep diaphragmatic breathing. And there are many ways you can move the lymph. which I will be explaining under principle 4, how we move. And remember, these principles that my 4 principles are the pillars to everything I do, but what we're focusing on here is the lymphatic and immune system. So the 4 principles to enhancing your immune and lymphatic system is where we're going to go next. That's why it's important to get a baseline. With my clients, when in my service, I get a baseline of everything so I know where to really start my work, but it also gives me a starting point on where the weakest links are in the body. So if I'm looking at your lifestyle, which I do look at, I will rate each principle. And I'll show you that in a minute, but I will rate each principle. And in the rating, it is giving me a subjective idea of the weakness in those particular systems. All right, so there we go again. The particular system. So emotional health, biochemical health, nutritional health, and physical health. And remember, this is how I rate and rank my clients' wellness and movement. And again, if you have been watching this series, you may have seen this this slide before. And as an example, this particular person, when they first came to me and I rated it, their total score, their overall score was 215, which was in the moderate to moving towards the high risk. That's their total score, which was telling me their readiness for exercise was low. So when somebody has a high overall score, based on adding up their emotional health score with their nutritional, biochemical, emotional health, by adding those up together, I have to provide them with a plan, a wellness plan to decrease those scores. I may have to refer them out for cases that go outside my scope of practice. And then based on the score of their physical health, I may have to do I will have to do a physical objective assessment of some sort. If my clients have pain, I do a comprehensive physical assessment. And in that assessment, that objective assessment, there I am now viewing and looking for movement impairment, movement restrictions, what causes pain. So this particular person, this example, I should say, this person was in somewhat pain, not too bad. And to get to the cause of their pain, I had to first start addressing their lifestyle, which we're gonna talk about next year. We're gonna lower those scores so that I can get them to move with a reduction in pain, but also know this, that movement can also elevate your score again. So if the movements are not prescribed right, if I prescribe the wrong movement medicine, I'm going to get a reaction. So I'm very careful of how I choose exercises that will help to restore their stability, their mobility, their flexibility. But I have to do it in a way where it doesn't elevate their nervous system response, because exercise can be stressful. So in my state of health, I can work out hard, bring up my heart rate, sweat, and work out. But when you're sick, a little bit of movement is okay, but it cannot overstimulate your nervous system because it's already overstimulated. So things like Tai Chi or Qigong, a gentle yoga, gentle. And I use concepts like Feldenkrais and Alexander techniques. These are what I call mindful movements that can restore organ function, acupuncture meridian function, and also muscular joint function all at the same time without disturbing their nervous system and setting them into chaos. So rating it and getting a baseline, and the reason their overall score went down is because they changed their lifestyle. So we come back to lifestyle. If you want to prevent illness, how many of you out there want to prevent illness? Or if you do get ill, how would you like to recover quicker? Change your lifestyle. Moving the lymph can be done with movement. It could also be done with breath. Diaphragmatic breathing will move the lymph if it's done properly. And when I assess my clients' breathing, I remember when I worked for the chiropractor between 2003 and 2008, one of my assessments were assessing diaphragmatic breathing. And I found that 98% of the people that came in were breathing what I call invertedly. So they were breathing up into their chest and not down into their belly. So they weren't getting a full use of their diaphragm. So that's a problem because their breaths are now shallow. And you're not releasing enough carbon dioxide in exchange for oxygen. So their oxygen levels were low. And I'll tell you, if your oxygen levels are low, your carbon dioxide level is up. So when you exhale, you release carbon dioxide, which is good for your plants, not good for your body. And what does your plant release for you? It releases oxygen. So when you breathe diaphragmatically, you're also getting rid of those gases. And that carbon dioxide that builds up can create lactic acid. And going back to what Dr. Otto Warburg discovered, is that cancer cannot grow in an oxygen-rich environment, but cancers and disease will grow in an acid-rich, low-oxygen environment. All right, so diaphragmatic breathing, when done properly and slowly, will help move the lymph. Going for a walk will help move the lymph. Doing Tai Chi, which is done with breath, moves the lymph. Getting a lymphatic massage, which is not deep. I mean, the minute you start pressing and probing and massaging heavily, you're activating the nervous system. And if you don't have a compromised immune or nervous system, go ahead and get a good deep tissue massage. I love them too. And there's other ways you can move the lymph. There's electrical frequencies now that can help move the lymph, etc. So now you begin to understand that the lymphatic system is a sewage drainage system throughout the body, and that it wasn't hardly recognized or taught. In fact, I learned more about the lymphatic system when I studied reboundology than I did in college. And when I would ask my audience, when I was doing all these immune enhancing presentations throughout the 90s, I would ask my audience how many people here today know what the lymphatic system is and you know what it does. I would barely get any hands up. And it would be the same thing with the immune system. Of course, I would get a few more hands that would go up. And how important is it? Well, look at what we learned here. And that's only scratching the surface. I've written an entire manual for cellular exercise instructors, and there is a huge chapter just dedicated on the lymphatic system and the immune system. It goes much deeper than this. I'm just kind of give you an idea of how important this fluid rich environment needs to be clean, in that your lymphatic system does not have a pump. I don't think I mentioned that. It doesn't have a pump. So what pumps your blood, ladies and gentlemen. Right, your heart. Well, what pumps your lymph? I just shared with you that movement, diaphragmatic breathing, lymphatic massage, and maybe some other methodologies like frequency-based wavelength energy therapies will move the lymph, but you have to move it. And would you agree that in the last 2 years, we've had more emotional stress because of the pandemic? Would you agree that we've had more people locked down and sedentary? Would you agree that we've had more people that have been highly stressed during this period? So I thought I had a big job before the pandemic hit with teaching and educating my clients on how to improve their lifestyle. It's a whole new ball game now. But rest assured, if your lifestyle factors are very high, if you had a high wellness movement rating, if you came and took my questionnaire, if you have pre-morbidity factors, like you already have diabetes, your risk for cardiovascular disease is up, your risk for cancers are up, and other illnesses, those are going to make it worse. Your susceptibility is greater. These pre-morbidity factors play a really big role now. You know, the fear that they're instilling in us, but I have solutions. I'm providing you with the truth. I'm lifting the veil of deception and teaching you that your immune system has an innate ability. Your lymphatic system is a sewage drainage system that needs to be flushed and purified. And that colds and flus are nothing but the body releasing what it no longer wants. Your body will let you know that it cannot take it. It'll put you to bed. It'll raise its temperature. In other words, it will create the symptom so that you wake up and make a change rather than suppressing it with drugs and getting better quicker under a false sense of security, only to have it come back 10 times worse later. I know there's a time and place for triage. Take a 14-day prescription of antibiotics, take some sinus medication, and you can go right to work. So if I show you what is challenging, I also show you what we can do about it. And what can we do? We improve what? We improve our 4 principles. And the first principle we're going to dive into next time is going to be emotional health. So let me close here. As I covered, and now we've covered the immunolymphatic system. Now we're going to start covering the 4 principles and then providing you with enhancement tips so that you can take this information and start applying it. Remember, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. But in the next part, we're going to get into the first 2 principles. All right, live with passion. Take it one day at a time. Keep hope alive. And I thank you. Send this to somebody that you care about. Share this with as many people as you can. Have a great day. Bye for now.